is that war never changes.
Hello there, I'm Big Alias, and am I happy, man? I'm so excited to be talking about this game. I cannot wait. So, but in order to talk about it, I feel as though I need to go off on a tangent and open this video in a way that doesn't immediately talk about the game, because I want to talk about gaming as a whole before I start this, because I tend not to focus entirely on the game when I do a review like this, which is why I ramble on for so damn long, and IGN would never hire me. So, you know, one thing that I want to talk about in a video in another time is about the golden age of gaming. And when I talk about it, there is one thing that I'm going to mention, which I really want to mention now, and I have to kind of as context for what I'm about to say. And that's the emergence of games that came after and sort of maybe to the tail end of this quote-unquote golden age of gaming, which started with, I think, BioShock Infinite. And then to The Last of Us, and then to Uncharted 4, and then to and then to God of War, and then to Red Dead Redemption 2. And I don't know if I'm missing any in there, but it's this kind of, and it's hard to explain because there's no real name for it, but it's this new style of doing a game where it's like this hyper narrative, super narrative focused. There's a term in film theory which you may or may not know called focalization, which is where everything that happens around one character, and it seems to plant you into the feet of that protagonist. Now I know that's been happening in gaming for years, you know, it's Halo and every kind of game that puts you into the feet of a character does that, but I'm talking about like a sense of hyper focalization where it really feels like the pacing follows you as it would, you know, if you were like part of the diegesis, part of the world, and you know, it's these super character driven where you pick up characters around you. It kind of follows the narrative structure of some of those more drawn out, like a western or something like that, films where you pick up characters as you go along, and it's very character driven, very well written, and it's all about the narrative, all about the story. They tend to be quite slow games that really are methodical and make you think, where you have to consider everything around you, and games that are just drop dead gorgeous and beautiful looking games. I don't know what word to use to describe it, because I don't think that there is one, but I hope people understand what I'm talking about when I say this, that there is an emergence of these games that just pop up all over the place, and with the kind of, I don't want to get too far into it, but with the retraction of a better time of gaming, it always feels great when you get one of these just super, I don't know, just like these games that are just primed to be considered masterpieces. I think Horizon Zero Dawn would be a similar one, where it's just so, everything is so about the consideration of the world that you're in and the characters, and the narrative usually feels like a journey. It's usually a path from start to finish, a la God of War, you know, The Last of Us. There's always one objective that they're heading to, and you slowly sludge to it. And when I saw the gameplay trailers for this, as someone who played Last Light, and I did enjoy Last Light, it kind of felt as though, you know, I enjoyed Last Light, but maybe not, it wasn't incredible, you know. And it seemed as though the closer we were getting to this, the more it seemed to be as though this was going to try to be one of those games. And it is. It definitely feels like one of those games. It is definitely one that follows that path. This is a game that ticks all of those boxes. You are Artyom, you're surrounded by interesting characters, although the characters in this are a bit of an enigma, especially when you're on the train. Now, firstly, I want to say that Artyom's wife is awesome, one of the best side characters in gaming. She is a great character, and so is the woman that you meet in the, I think it's a lighthouse. But the characters on the train all kind of feel like aliens-esque, you know, cliche soldier people. Hoorah!
Oh, I know what the ladies like.
And they feel like imitations of that. And when you first see that, and given that the sound doesn't exactly sync up all the time, it's a little bit jarring, a little bit strange, but honestly, it doesn't take long for you to actually start giving a shit about the people around you, and you do actually start caring. I saw another review where a guy was talking about how he was looking forward to going back to the train and seeing what's up with everybody, and I could totally agree with that. I can definitely see that you do care about the crew, and I don't know how they do it, but the game does make you care about the people around you, which is difficult, especially for someone like me who doesn't really usually get immersed in games. That is a difficult thing to do. And that does bring me on to my next point with this game, which is man, I've never been so immersed in a game. This is the most atmospheric game I've ever played in my entire life. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that. Now, obviously, when you see this, the first thing you're going to see is, yes, this game is gorgeous. It's incredibly beautiful, but it goes deeper than that. The presentation of this, I would say, is only second to Red Dead Redemption 2, which I think is the greatest game ever made. I think that the presentation in this game fits the intention so unbelievably perfectly. It's incredible. I mean, there's this season-based environment in this game. So you start with the winter, which is a great idea because it feels like, you feel like you're picking up the action. So many games start in spring, so that when they do a seasonal thing like this, like The Last of Us, they start in spring so that you can go spring, summer, and then have the harshness of winter and end with the birth of a new year in spring. And narratively, it fits nicely. I think it's a great idea to flip that on its head and start with winter, so you start with this abrasive world, and you get a fantastic introduction to the game, where you slowly move through these trains. I'm sure it's not spoiling too much. You slowly move through these trains in this darkened, snowy, cold, unforgiving atmosphere, and you just get a great introduction into the harshness of the world that you're about to enter into. And then when you do see a monster that you have to shoot, you almost lock up. You almost don't know what to do. And I've just never, atmospherically, that's amazing. The design that must have gone into making me feel like that is just incredible. And that's the general theme of the game. You get these 4 distinct different ways of treating this post-apocalyptic scenario, and you also get, there's an interior section which I won't talk too much about, but with some crazy characters where that's perfectly represented too, the atmosphere in there, and the design in that mission is perfect as well. But each setting is a brilliant representation of where they're trying to bring you through. Unlike a game like Fallout 76, or even 3, which I thought was a fantastic fucking game, this game feels like what those games wanted to achieve. It doesn't feel like your cliche movie post-apocalyptic world all the time, though it does sometimes, and yet it still feels like exactly what you would experience in something like this. I think the world building is so fantastic. The summer section feels like, or at least the desert section feels like what the Mad Max game should have been to live up to the name of the fantastic Mad Max Fury Road. These environments feel like what they should be, what games want their environments to be like. They're perfect visual representations. Aside for just being beautiful, they're designed incredibly well. And when you're in the sand, you get sandstorms that kind of block your vision. In the snow, it's just very harsh, and it really does immerse you. I don't want to go too deep into it, but I am a person who has never been immersed in a game, and it really does immerse you. And because of that, it does something similar that Haunted of Hill House did, which is, I have never had a jump scare work on me in a film or a game up until last year, where The Haunting of Hill House gave me one jump scare, which worked, and I've seen many horror films, and now I can officially say that Metro Exodus gave me one jump scare, which has had... Man, it made me shit myself. I gotta say, and it was organic as well. It wasn't something that was scripted. It was something that jumped out at me. So, because of all of that, I am having such an incredible time with this game. I really can. Based on those things, I really can recommend this game. If you are looking for something that is just engrossing and atmospheric to the best degree, I'm so in love with this game, and I've got a huge smile on my face talking about it. However, there have to be issues, and there are some glaring issues in this game. There are things that won't really get to you as much. Walking feels a bit strange, and which sounds weird. It is very buggy, very glitchy, and luckily it's a survival game, so it doesn't feel like too much of an issue for me that there are places that you can't really go to, and it doesn't really feel too... It feels a little restrictive, and that it's a bit glitchy when you walk sometimes. And I will say that this game has crashed on me 4 times. And one time was just because I was paused for too long, and I rarely have games crash on me. I think in the span of the 360 I had about 2 crashes. On the Xbox One I've had about 10, and I've had 4 with this game, so it's incredibly glitchy and buggy in that sense, and it does crash a lot. There are also some real sound design issues. I mean, some really strange ones. It's very 50-50 because this game has made me scared. It has brought fear to me through sound, where I'm just walking along and I hear the occasional thing. There was one moment where I was walking through this office that was blanketed, and I won't give the context of the office because that'll be a spoiler, but it was blanketed in sand, and then I just hear, out the corner of my ear, I hear a telephone go off, and it was the creepiest fucking thing I've ever heard. It was so cool, but it was so creepy, and they do so much out of your peripheral with sound that really does fuck with you, and that is so great. But I don't know who developed the sound, but I'm assuming that they wear headphones all the damn time, because they do not know how a footstep sounds. They really don't, and it is bad. I mean, when you first start this game for the first couple of hours, it's gonna mess with you. And I will say that you have to play with this game with headphones, and I'll get into that later. But you do have to play this game with headphones in order to get the full experience, and I would wholeheartedly recommend it, because you're not going to get anywhere near the experience that you could be getting from this game if you don't wear headphones. However, you will be listening to the worst footsteps sound effect of all time. This is not how footsteps sound, and it will put you off. It will distract you, because you'll be going, what were they thinking? It's such a beautiful game with so much time and effort put into it. Why this? It just doesn't make sense. And sometimes when you come across flames, they sound as though they're coming from an old Victogram, like something that plays records from the 20s. Just really poorly, really badly implemented. Whereas some of the sounds are great, there are some major issues with sound, and there are 2 huge issues though that have made me almost sell this game that I love so much. And I'm so glad that I didn't. I'm so glad I gave it more of a chance, because this becomes less of an issue as the game goes on. But the first issue, and I'm going to build up to the worst, but the first issue is that of resources. As I said, this isn't something that is as bad as the game goes on, because you begin to loot more things and you begin to find more things. But for the first few hours, you will struggle to find ammo and med kits, and that is going to be a real problem. Ammo isn't found typically through shooting people or even shooting monsters. Occasionally, if you shoot a soldier, because there are 2 types of enemies in this game, you've got the soldiers who have guns and you've got the monsters. If you shoot a soldier, then occasionally, very rarely, they will drop ammo. If you shoot a monster, they won't drop anything at all. If you kill a monster, they will drop no resources whatsoever. The way that you get ammo in this game is through crafting it. The only way to get ammo is to either kill someone or craft it. Now, crafting ammo takes 2 things. It takes these beakers, which I'm assuming are just generic chemicals, and something with a spanner, which I'm assuming is like binding parts. So finding chemicals and finding these beakers isn't really a problem. You'll come across those all the time at the start of the game. It's finding the binding parts that are so lacking in the world. They are so hard to find that you wouldn't believe that you need them for ammo. The result of that is you won't have much ammo for the start of the game, which you may be saying that's okay, it's a stealth game, but you can't stealth against the monsters, against the creatures. There is no way of stealthing against those. It's just because they're rampant, they go wild. And there are a few missions at the start of the game where you will just be running. You'll just be running away from things and hoping you don't take it too much damage and that you can run away and get back to base. Now, that honestly wasn't fun. There's one mission in particular where I had to get into this old abandoned building and pull a couple of levers and then get on a boat and paddle off. But I didn't have any ammo. I didn't have any medkits, so it just became a game of kiting them and circling around and finding areas where I could run and get to the path that I needed to get to, which to some might be great, but to me, someone who enjoys a game and enjoys, playing a game, that's a huge issue, and I would say that is a big problem. Fortunately, as the game goes on, you find more. It seems to be a little more abundant. You fight more soldiers who do drop resources which you can craft, and it becomes less of a problem, less of an issue. And as you go around and infiltrate more places, you will find more resources, and you can heal yourself by sleeping and things like that. However, The second biggest issue, which is a huge issue for me, definitely for me in particular, is this. Where do I go? Right, I have no idea what you want from me. I've checked my map, and there's a cross, and that's where I'm supposed to be. Here's what the objective is supposed to be. I've got the car. It's something home. That's a word I couldn't exactly explain. But yeah, what is going on? Where do I go? Everyone's just silent. It's so eerie. It's creepy. No one will talk to me. It's like I'm the dude at the dinner hall that stinks of anything. I'm not going to say what it could be. I don't want you guys to be creeped out. But you look, go onto the train. Nobody talks to me outside of the train. Nobody talks to me in the train. He's just cleaning his gun. Giggity. And there's the dude from Avatar. I have no idea what this game wants me to do. I've checked everywhere on the train. Every compartment, every place. I've just got back from hooking up my train to another train, and I'm on another train, and this is supposed to be the train. Of course, it isn't the train, because I don't know where to go. There is such an issue with communication with this game. It is unreal. Now, I know that I've been told that this is a horror game. This is what happens with horror games. It's just derivative of the genre, and that, you know, they don't communicate much with you, and that it's a survival game, and that you're left out on your own to figure things out. I don't care. I have spent so much time in this game trying to figure out what to do, trying to figure out what the hell they want from me. Now, they do give you a map, and the map shows you the general direction of maybe something that they maybe want you to do at some point in the mission. And if you flip it over to the back, you get a bit of exhibitionism. Nothing really tangible, nothing that tells you what they want you to do, how they want you to approach it, or even where they want you to go. Sometimes before you head into a mission, they'll tell you what they want you to do. Sometimes they won't. Sometimes they'll be incredibly cryptic about what they want you to do in the mission, and very vague, and you can't really decipher it. And even when you get into the mission, even if you figure out where you have to go or how to get there, you then have to find like a lever or a switch or something somewhere that is in no way telegraphed, no way, there's nothing indicating that could be there. In fact, sometimes, for example, when I was trying to flip switch a train track from one side to the other, they have this big lever that completely camouflages in the rest of the world. I had to look up a YouTube guide just to figure out what to do, because I was just spending so much time trying to get through this bit. The prime example of this is that there's this section which I'm sure you've all seen in the trailer, which is where, but this exact description is going to be exactly how this mission is given to you. You get on a boat, you head into a house, you stop at some point. I decided that where I should stop should probably be when I hit this wall, and then you have to get out. It doesn't tell you which button to get out with, but I'm assuming it's X. Okay, it's X. So I pressed X, I got out. I went up a flight of stairs thinking that's where I have to go. I got into a room, it switched to a first-person cutscene. Great, I think I'm where I should be. Some people infiltrated the big house. It's more of a big building, church, to be honest. Right, let's be honest, it's a church. Some people with guns came in and infiltrated it, and there's actually a great scene where you have to jump out the window, you come down, you take out a few enemies that are surrounding this house with these people that you were just talking to. That's great, that's it. Doesn't tell you anything else, doesn't tell you where it wants you to go, what it wants you to do, anything like that. No indication. There's a cross on your map. It might as well be in space. It doesn't tell you whether it's upstairs, whether it's downstairs, what it wants you to do when you get there, how it wants you to get there. Nothing. After about 15, maybe even 20 minutes of searching around that house, taking out every enemy, which, by the way, while you're doing that, all you can hear through your headphones is people crying. It's really morbid. I chanced upon a pier where there was a boat on its side with no indication. I mean, it was up on a crane on its side. In any other video game, I see that as a wall, as something blocking you from jumping into the water. I just so happened to gently turn my analog stick to the right, where I got a cue saying hold X to pull this thing down. It pulled the boat down and I sailed away, of which didn't tell me where I had to sail to. I then had to go find the train. That is how they approach you in these missions. Eventually it is something, I mean, there are times when the game does become linear and it becomes easier to figure out, but honestly when it's linear it's not as fun and as stealthy, but it really does lack communication. In the clip that you might have just seen then, if I can be bothered to put it in, I got on a train, I assumed I hooked it up to another train, and then it told me to go back to the base on the map. So I went back to the base by running back to the base. I fought a few monsters along the way, and I got there. But no one would talk to me. It was actually kind of cool in a way. It was kind of eerie that no one was speaking to me. It was silent, dead silent on the train. I was there for about 10 or 15 minutes. Again, I had to look up another YouTube guide. Turns out I had to get in the train and then go forwards again on the track because the track had flipped without me doing anything. It's just that lack of communication will be a huge issue for anyone who, like me, who just... I mean, Look, it's a very atmospheric game, and that's what I enjoy the most about it. So when you're breaking the atmosphere, when I have to look up a YouTube guide, when I'm endlessly trying to break the game just to get to where I need to be, just to figure out what you want from me, that is an issue. That is a real, tangible issue. And I'm sure there are people who are going to tell me, get over it, get over the fact that there's no ammo, be stealthy, despite the fact that it's impossible to stealth past the monsters, and be smart and figure it out. But I don't want to spend more time, of which I did for the first couple of hours of this game. I spent more time trying to figure out what they wanted me to do than doing what they wanted me to do and being part of this world and everything being great. Now that is my main concern with this game. However, if it's not an issue for you, then you can wipe it out of this review and skip this whole bit. Lastly, I do want to talk about the gameplay. So the gameplay is great. The guns feel great to shoot. It's survival gameplay. So the people who didn't like the Red Dead Redemption 2 gameplay because it was too quote-unquote clunky, it's survival gameplay. I don't know how people have lost the idea of what survival gameplay is, but survival gameplay is designed to be difficult. It's designed to not flow, because flowing FPS gameplay is designed for encounters where you shoot other people. It has to feel nice. Now, Modern Warfare 3 is an example of a game where it just is bad shooting mechanics, bad physics, bad gun models, and bad animations. Whereas something like Titanfall 2 is, as I think we can all agree, a beautiful flowing game where it feels great to shoot other people. A game like Resident Evil 7 or Red Dead Redemption 2 or Metro Exodus has clunky gunplay because it heightens the sense of fear, which I know having a lack of ammo does too, but give me a little bit, please. You know, you can take the piss for that. But yeah, having the gameplay feel so heavy and so clunky, that's the point. They could easily have nice flowing gameplay, but then if you have this approachable, smooth gameplay, then every time you encounter an enemy, you're going to feel too confident about it. The result of the gameplay feeling heavy and clunky and stodgy as it should be, and I love the gameplay, I love how meaty and powerful the guns feel. The result of that, along with the lack of ammo and the great, beautiful atmosphere in this game, means that I am at all times I'm on edge. And there was like a time in the Mad Max era, as I'm going to call it, where I entered into a camp and this guy's just like questioning me. He doesn't attack me. My crosshair doesn't turn red, and yet he's questioning me constantly. You shouldn't be here. You shouldn't come here. You shouldn't go here. And then I move up, and there's another couple people who are the same way. And I go up to go up the stairs, next level, and there are people torturing someone, and it's just so jarring. It just punches you in the face, and you know, stuff like that. The gameplay just really does help evoke this feeling of like fear, and that you're always on edge, and that is so fantastic. So Metro Exodus, which I've ranted on about, I love it. I'm so happy with this. It's surpassed expectations. I'm so happy about this game because in an era where gaming is just it seems so flawed, and so there are so many questions, so many issues from here, there, and everywhere. This is just a game. I mean, this is just, you play the game, you start, you finish, you know, you take part in the journey, and it feels great when you're doing that. It really manages to focus itself on being just a great experience, and it's very successful in that. It's the most beautiful, atmospheric, creepy, visceral game I think I've ever played, and I think it will stand up there with the best of the generation. So this is a game where if you are willing to be very apologetic about its flaws, or if the flaws that I have are not the same as what you may have, then you're going to have a great time and an amazing experience with it. But let me know what you think in the comment section if you would like to do so. If you don't, that's absolutely fine, and I shall see you later.